Oh, didn't see you there. You'll have to forgive me, I'm just getting ready for the early stages of the apocalypse, and if you want to bunk it out with me, I have some rations stockpiled. To be honest, I don't even know if the apocalypse has started yet. I've been isolating myself from the world ever since the Pokemon Sword and Shield announcement came out, and everyone was acting insane. And now that the game is actually out, I am terrified to see what has become of the world. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Up until its release, if you had an opinion on what the game was going to be like, you could be deemed a war criminal, either complaining about the animations and lack of Pokemon and calling those who disagree with you brainless media consumers, or calling all those who disagree with you and want to give their honest criticisms on a series they deeply care about entitled clowns. In this type of environment, only a fool would give their opinion on these games. My opinion on Pokemon Shield. Not to anti-brag or anything, but I consider myself a Pokemon aficionado, so I know that there's a lot that people come to expect out of our digital pet sims. So I've taken it upon myself, Viddy_S vids, to critique and also just talk about these games. In the interest of making this video more neat and tidy, I've put some timestamps in the description to the different topics of the video. So if you want, you can just skip to the part with the funny tree, it's under the visual section. But before we get to the funny tree, we're gonna start out with the gameplay. Because if it's not fun, why bother? The game uses the classic Pokemon formula. Choose a starter Pokemon, fight rival, fight the gyms, beat the bad guy, become the best there ever was. You can also catch Pokemon too if you want. The combat itself is pretty much the same as it's been since Gen 4. You just try to make your opponent's HP stat drop to 0. There are some small changes like Rapid Spin being a normal type Flame Charge now, but nothing major. If you've played Pokemon since its transition to 3D, you probably know that Game Freak likes to add little gimmicks to change the tide of battle. First, they added Mega Evolution, which is something I liked for weaker Pokemon like Mega Beedrill and Mega Audino. But Mega Salamence? And 2 Mega Mewtwo's? Next were Z-moves, which I thought were okay. It's just a super powerful move in exchange for its held item slot, so it's alright. Now, it's Dynamax. Dynamax makes you real big. When your Pokemon is Dynamaxed, all their offensive moves become stronger and all their status moves become Protect. Because bigger means stronger. And also slower. And I'm not talking the speed stat. I'm saying, good lord, the Dynamax animations take so long! There's the animation of you looking at your Pokemon Go Plus, then their Pokeball grows big and you yeet that thing with the power of those Pintas from the Water Mario game. And then you have to watch that giant Pokemon emerge from the Pokeball and then... To make Dynamax feel more special, and also probably for balance reasons, they restricted Dynamaxing to certain spots within the game. So you can't just nuke a wild Weedle. Well, for more than one reason. Because of this, whenever you can Dynamax, the opponent will almost always Dynamax. So then you gotta watch another cutscene, not only that, but their move animations are also as slow as a truck with a slow sign on it. When you or another trainer Dynamax, it's around a 22-second cutscene, with around 10 seconds for the attack animations. At least the Dynamax animations fixed my sleep schedule. I don't understand why this animation happens so often when they have another faster Dynamaxing animation. Why can't it be like Mega Evolution in X and Y, where it only shows the cutscene for your character once per time the game is turned on? I like seeing the other special Dynamax animations, but when it's nearly a minute of me just watching the same animation twice with little quirks for the other characters, it just takes away from it. When Dynamaxing, the Pokemon is giant for 3 turns and then deflates. Besides Biggieing, combat's been the same as it's always been. However, a huge plus is how easy it is to get access to good competitive tools, like the nature-changing mints, bottle caps, competitive held items, and a lot more. I'd say at this point in time, this is the easiest game to get into competitive Pokemon with. Especially because at this point in time, there are really only 2 other options, and the people that play X and Y competitively in 2020 are on my do not interact with list. Some of the bigger changes happened outside the battles. One of the biggest being that they, for the most part, got rid of random encounters. Now you can see the Pokemon on the screen just like the mobile version. So now if you want, you can only fight Scraggy to reduce the population and get another Pokemon removed from the national dex. And avoid fighting Cubchoo, because I never want to see harm coming to the sneezy Icy Bear. This new encounter system was first implemented in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but I never played those games, so it's new to me. This is a great new addition. This makes wild battles almost completely optional, as long as you can outrun some of the This allows you to pick your fights and just get into battles with what you want, making it easier to find that team member you're looking for, complete the Pokedex, or EV train. The only possible downside I see is that if you aren't put in all these battles, you may be a bit underleveled, but not to worry. It's easier than it's ever been to be overleveled. Thanks to the new EXP system. It's like the EXP share of X and Y onward, but this time without consent. I thought I would mind more than I did about not being able to turn off the EXP share thing, but after playing through, I still had a bit of a challenge playing with my self-imposed rules. Not to mention, there are more broken ways of getting XP in the brand new Wild Area. The Wild Area is a large open area that has a giant amount of Pokemon in it. This area gives you a lot of team options early on, which I think is great. I could start off with Stunky. My dreams are ruined. There's a level cap of stuff that you can catch. You'll know if you can catch it or not depending on if it says it's strong looking when you encounter it. Which is annoying, but I understand they just don't want you to spam Pokeballs at the level 40 Steelix before the first gym. I think the wild area concept is an amazing idea, and it was so much fun running around and looking to see what new Pokemon I could find and all the hidden items and everything. The other big thing you can do in the wild area are max raid battles, where you and up to 3 other players battle against a singular Dynamax Pokemon. If your group defeats the Pokemon, everyone gets a chance to catch it, as well as other goodies like TRs, which are the TMs of old, or some EXP candies. XP candies are some of the most overpowered grinding items in all of Pokemon history. You give it to your Pokemon like a rare candy, but instead of always going up to the next level, it just gives them a set amount of XP, which is insane. With a handful of these, I took a Litwick I caught in the 3rd gym and leveled it up to be fine to take on the champion in only a couple of minutes, which is super helpful to avoid grinding, especially for this game where after a certain threshold, it's just so hard to get XP. As for the max raids themselves, I don't like them too much. I may just not be the biggest fan of Dynamaxing, but in my experience with them, they were either too slow to be any fun, or it just gets one-shotted by a legendary. It's hard to hit a middle ground, not to mention there are special Dynamax Pokemon forms called Gigantamax forms. Gigantamax Pokemon can only be received through mystery gifts or caught in these max raid battles, which I think is stupid. You're telling me, if I want my Colossal to have this sweet form, I have to get rid of him and get one of the special ones that aren't the one that I raised from a roly-coly from before even the first gym. Yeah, I'm keeping my MMM138 just the way he is, thanks. Besides max raids and just battling wild Pokemon, there's not a lot to do in the wild area. Now don't get me wrong, playing through the wild area was a blast the first time, and I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. Besides max raids and the wild Pokemon, you can do a little timed bike minigame, fight some trainers occasionally, buy some TRs and stuff. There's a second daycare here, that's cool, right? You can pay these guys to maybe get you a fossil. You could go camping. Camping is this generation's Pokemon-a-me, and it's fine. I like seeing my Pokemon interact and play fetch and beat the ever-loving shit out of me, but I also miss getting to pet them and feed them directly. You can still feed them by making curry. To make curry, you put in some ingredients and play a Cooking Mama-esque minigame. I mean, this game is basically a watered-down DS Classics collection at this point, but there's just something special about feeding your Pokemon right out of your hand, even when it doesn't have a mouth. The curry can heal your Pokemon, give them more friendship, and even give some XP. There's some other new gameplay elements that I didn't really have a smooth transition to, so I'm just gonna slap them right here. I really like how in this game some of the tutorials are optional, kind of. You still have to go through a bit of dialogue, but if you already caught a Pokemon before the catching tutorial or tell Hop that you've been to a Pokemon Center before, they just won't tell you, which is fantastic. It's nowhere near perfect, but baby steps. I mean, Pokemon can be a little slow sometimes. I mean, they just added AirPods, which is the best way to manage volume control and show that your character makes mad bank at the same time. There's also a skip cutscene option, which I thought was going to be one of the best changes in the entire series. It wasn't. It turns out the game doesn't consider the characters talking about lore and plot using the in-game models as a cutscene. And the things that do count usually are pretty enjoyable, like the meeting the starters animation or this JPEG. I just really wish that they added a skip cutscene prompt and also figured out what a cutscene is. They did, however, give us one thing that helps save time, and that's the portable PC. The portable PC is a nice touch. I like being able to swap Pokemon on the fly when I need to. Speaking of fly, HMs are still gone for good, with you being able to call in a flying taxi to serve as fly and being able to bike on water for surf. Warning, I'm about to bring on a hashtag unpopular opinion. I kind of wish they would bring back ride Pokemon, or even HMs. Let me explain. Pokemon Sword and Shield's routes just feel so barren and linear. In the other games on routes, you would see breakable rocks, or strength puzzles, or maybe just a tree that you could cut down. In this, the most difference you get in an area is you have some water you can surf across, but even that barely shows up. In previous games, when you got access to cut, strength, surf, waterfall, rock smash, or the ride Pokemon equivalents, you had a reason to go back and explore. You were rarely forced to go back to old routes, but they often incentivized backtracking with good TMs or items. And when they did force you to go back, it's usually for some means of progress through the story, and they could just roadblock you with an NPC anyways. It also makes the game world feel a lot more alive rather than just run through this route, get to the end. This game goes by very quickly if you don't try to complete the Pokédex, since the routes are super short and a lot of them barely have any trainers. Which I can see being a plus for people who just want to go and battle the gyms and beat the game as fast as possible. When I first played through Pokemon Shield, I was trying to fill out the Pokédex as I went along, and it made it a lot more enjoyable. Every route was almost always filled with a completely new set of Pokemon, and the wild area has Pokemon all over the place. Speaking of the Pokemon, this gen has some bangers. Centiskorch, Roly-Coly, Milcery, Appleton, Galarian Corsola, Cursula, Runerigus, Galarian Ponyta, Phalanx, Snom, Clockmon, and Mr. Rhyme, just to name a few. The starters themselves are also really rock solid. I just wish they had secondary types at any point. I think the new Pokemon themselves are fantastic, and there's not really a bad one in the bunch. Yes, I'm including Ice-Q and Over the Stonehenge. And unlike most Pokemon games where a lot of new Pokemon become available in the post-game, this one, almost all of them are available in the main campaign. Because all the rest got cut from the game entirely. See ya, Porygon! They removed him from the anime, and now they can in the games. This was where the majority of the criticism of the game came from, where this is the first game that previous Pokemon got cut and can't be obtained in the game at all. On one side of the coin, I've met people saying they were going to complete the Pokédex for the first time, since it seems a lot easier than it's ever been. On the bigger, louder, angrier side of the coin, people were pissed, with some people saying this completely gets rid of the point of Pokemon, which is to go on an adventure with your favorites. Others saying that most people just use the regional Pokédexes anyways, so just stop crying. When I first heard about the National Dex being cut, I was bummed. I wasn't too upset because I usually just use regional Pokemon, and I could still have my old teams in Pokemon Home, so I could still move them up. I stayed pretty silent when big arguments about the National Dex arose, thinking a lot of these people were just going really too far on both sides. People really like their Pokemon. However, one day when I was on a long car ride, thinking about whatever happened to pop into my head, I realized that it's kind of unfair for a lot of people to not be able to use their favorites. When I was a kid, I went through Soul Silver with my Pearl team. I just formed a bond with them. I'd imagine there are plenty of other Pokemon that people formed a bond with and that they want to bring on their new journey. Some people would say, use this as an opportunity to use new Pokemon. But they shouldn't be forced to. It's a game, and I feel they should get to play how they want. This isn't the only thing about this game people set fires to the streets for. Let's talk about the visuals. Let's get this over with. This game can look good. I like some areas, I don't like others. The Pokemon battle arenas and the Pokemon themselves look great. Some moves look good, some don't. All the people animations generally look okay,
except for the ones in the overworld.
The named characters, I like their designs. There's this tree, people hate this tree. I understand why people are mad about the graphics considering how good Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey looked. Not to mention that supposedly the reason not all the Pokemon made it in was because Game Freak wanted to spend more attention on the graphics, even though the Pokemon models and animations were identical to the previous ones. But let's just say, I think that might have been a fib. Me personally, I've never liked Pokemon's graphics since they've made the jump to 3D. I think the Pokemon felt more alive when they just had 2D sprites, which I guess in a way shows how lifeless the animations actually are, especially in comparison to a game from 2006. Let's just say graphically my expectations were low. But what I still do look forward to is the music. This game's music is pretty good. I don't think any of the tracks are really bad, though I have some issues with a couple. Mainly the route themes. I didn't think they were bad, just forgettable. I mean, I didn't even realize there's only 4 route themes that play across 10 routes. This in a way to me makes the routes mesh together a lot more. I also think the Wild Battle and Default Trainer Battle themes aren't anything special, but they don't really have to be. Besides those examples, the rest range from, this is pretty cool, to most of the town themes are really good, with Wyndon and Modestoke being my personal favorites. Wyndon's theme feels exactly like it belongs to a bustling, semi-corrupt city, while Modestoke is a very lively sort of steampunk theme that fits the city well and made me excited to explore what it had. The town themes may be good, but they really hit it out of the park with the special battle themes. The gym leaders have amazing themes. I love how tracks set in stadiums have cheering implemented in them, especially when a gym leader's down to their last Pokemon. It makes me feel like there are people who actually want to see a good match instead of me just sitting in a dark room by myself. Go get him, Carl. This game brought some amazing tracks such as Marnie's theme, the Champion theme, and the Battle Tower theme to name a few. But I want to talk about a couple of my favorite themes from this game. Side note, I know nothing about music, I just like to jam. First is the Slumbering Weld, which just feels calm, tranquil, and mysterious. There's this feeling of adventure, which is perfect for this first area in the game. But then the howls come in. They give you a sense of not being as safe as you originally thought. Maybe realizing this forest was forbidden for a reason. Next is Bede's theme. This theme fits him so well and just makes me want to mop the floor with him while doing the Mr. Krabs robot dance. There's also Hop's theme, but specifically his second theme. While his first theme makes him feel more like a friendly rival that we've been expecting. You know, the one we can just easily push off even though he started before us. He's not really in our league, but his battles can be more fun than the average NPCs. His second theme evokes a feeling of this being more of a battle of equals. It's faster paced and sounds more impactful while keeping some of the elements of Hop's original theme. I think Hop's second theme really shows how far he's come. Speaking of Hop, let's talk about these characters. I have to say, if there's one thing this game has done better than the last 2 generations, it's the characters. Point? Hop. This is what I imagine was going on at Game Freak headquarters when it came time to write a new rival. You wanna try and make Hal again? Hop is one of the best rivals since Generation 5, but that's comparable to a boxing match between a professional boxer, a sick child, and 4 corpses. At the very least, character-wise. Hop's story is he wants to be the one to defeat his brother, the current champion, but makes one giant mistake, and invites you. He then gets depressed, wonders what he's doing wrong, constantly thinks he's weak, and then learns to move on. Which is interesting, and made me care for Hop as a character. But that's just not great for a rival. The point of the rival is to motivate the player to test their skills and to try and get ahead of them. Whenever I battle Hop, I actually want him to win, but the game won't let me and he just keeps breathing. Difficulty-wise, he isn't very hard to beat through most of the game, but by late game, he can get tough. I mean, he gets a box legendary, so that's something almost new. Luckily, Hop isn't our only rival. There's also this preppy, sassy beta Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians, Bede. Beat is the rival everyone wanted because people just want a reason to hate. Beat is a rival gym challenger who literally cares about nothing but winning the respect of the Chairman Rose, a man who sent Beat out on his Pokemon journey from his tiny little orphanage, and also forgot his name. I think Beat's attitude is nice and refreshing compared to the normal rivals we've been getting lately, as much as I like Top. However, I just wish Beat's early team wasn't a complete pushover if you had a Dark type on your team. I also really like how Beat just shows up at the finals. He just interrupts the entire show in front of everyone to tell you about how his life sucks and how it's all your fault. I also like how Bede just becomes a gym leader out of nowhere of a type he barely used just because he wore pink and had teenage angst. Speaking of gym leaders, all the gym leaders in this game are pretty good as far as gym leaders go. I can at least remember all their names, so that's a point over X and Y. Most are quite charming and decently stand out from other gym leaders for one reason or another. I think all the gym leaders and gym challenges stand out for the most part, especially Opal's stupid quizzes. I lost the gym fight the first time because of the quiz answers. But out of all the gym leaders, one is sort of a black sheep among the rest, and that's Piers. Piers is a rock star who showed this game could use a little bit of voice acting. I'm not talking much, it's just they did the exact archetype in Black 2 and White 2 and gave the character a small song for effect. I think it would have been a fun reference to have Piers sing Roxy's song. I know it wouldn't have fit well due to in Japanese, instead of spelling Pokemon, she spells coughing. And also a lot of the times Piers has specific lyrics to tell you exactly what he's going to do, getting rid of any challenge you would have in his fight. Which according to my knowledge of sing theory doesn't really translate to music very well. Piers is a very interesting gym leader, in part to him refusing to Dynamax, due to his hometown not having a power spot. He's also sort of a character that helps out during some late and post-game activities because he's a good Samaritan. The only things I don't like about him are shouting his battle strategies and his super dramatic reveal that just sort of felt wasted. That was very nice. Who are you? He was the only gym leader to not show up during the opening ceremony to build suspense who this guy was. But all this tension was lost when it was just some guy I never saw or heard about. Not even talked about by his younger sister Marnie. I don't like Marnie. I know a lot of people like Marnie because she has a cute goth GF exterior who's also got a sweet soft GF interior. But she just doesn't do anything. You see her around a couple times and she just sort of tells you how you're strong and how she totally doesn't like you or anything, and then gives you a league card and sometimes battles you. There is this one really cute scene in the post-game that doesn't really amount to anything besides just being cute, but I like the scene though. The thing about Marnie is, I feel that she had so much potential, especially to build up your fight with Piers. Imagine, you reach the end of Route 8 where you stumble upon Marnie at a campsite. She offers for you to come sit and chat. If you accept, a cutscene plays of you two looking at a fire while she tells you about how you may even be strong enough to take on her older brother, Piers. Her older brother who is so strong he can hold his own against Raihan and takes on his opponents without using Dynamax. This would not only build up Piers, but make Marnie feel more into this world rather than just, I'm here. I feel Marnie's roles could have been filled by Hop, Sonia, Bede, and Piers, and that she was just sort of added for girl appeal, and to make fun of fanatics with Team Yell, which I thought was pretty funny, but not funny enough. Team Yell has a funny concept, yet it just wasn't interesting, just kind of jokey, and didn't really amount to any sort of threat besides just being a roadblock. Team Yell feels like they wanted to be something new, but ended up being a worse Team Skull. They both try to appear all tough and dark, but act comedically. They both aren't any threat whatsoever and are just a nuisance. Both live in a complete dump of a town. Both serve as a roadblock before a major important fight that isn't the main evil villain. And both turn out not to be the true evil team in the end. And the true evil team was what we thought were the good guys. But I'll give them credit, they were writing a team of adults obsessed with a famous goth girl, so I understand they were probably walking on eggshells while writing the dialogue. Back on a more positive note, Leon and Sonia are pretty enjoyable characters. Leon is the quote, unbeatable champion, the strongest trainer in Galar, and as such, a lot of the problems that would be fun for you to solve, he does instead. Great. With Leon, what you see is what you get. He's confident, he's brave, he's optimistic, while Sonya is a bit more subtle. Sonya and Leon were rival gym challengers, and their history together is very interesting to learn about. However, the game doesn't really go into a lot of detail about it, making it very hard to learn about. Much like with Sonya's apparently pretty rough home life. Sonya has a pretty interesting arc where she finds out what she wants to do with her life. I mean, that's about it. Besides a lot of people wanting Sonya to make their metapod The last character I want to talk about is Chairman Rose. You all loved friendly rivals so much, we're here to give you friendly villains. Mr. Rose is a goofy energy tycoon who sometimes decides to bring upon an early apocalypse because he can't wait for a day for a better defense, because nobody's taking this seriously. I'm sorry, Mr. Rose, but even with Prime delivery, the fastest we can do is 1 day. I'm going to start the apocalypse, and it's all your fault. Have fun sleeping at night. Wait, what? So he baby rages and then fights you for wanting to stop the apocalypse. Now, Chairman Rose is either the stupidest or the most deceptive Pokemon villain yet. Rose is such a goofy villain, yet his theme is one of the most ominous sounding in the whole series. Guys, I found the problem. Apparently Game Freak used the wrong audio for the fight. This is the real song. Perhaps it was the sound team making a theme without knowing what Rose would be, but perhaps, maybe not. Consider this. Most of what we know about Rose is through the eyes of people who either adore or respect him. Even his league card was filled out by his secretary. So what's to say that this whole good guy persona isn't just a facade for the sake of his public image? If he was an energy tycoon, wouldn't a large part of his power come from his ability to persuade? Getting people like Olina, Bede, and Leon to do his work for him because they want to please him. His good guy persona being a facade also may be hinted at in the first episode of the Pokemon series Twilight Wings, where the Corviknight freaks out over seeing him, but not John. Though it's explained that the Corviknight just doesn't like many new people, but liked John for some reason, but it still could just be foreshadowing. Even in his throwing animation, it shows hints of a violent expression. Kind of out of character for the kind, goofy chairman that we know. And once he is unable to hold his ground any longer, he congratulates you. He points out about how he is doing this for everyone, and how the situation is already under control. If it was under control, why would you try and stop us in the first place? A powerful man who's already reached the top, and stays there because he knows what to say. I may just be reading into things too deeply, but whether he was being deceptive or just goofy, you couldn't wait 1 more day to do your plan? This story sucks. This is probably the worst story in any Pokemon game, including Pokemon Go and Dash. Okay, it's not that bad, they at least had some pretty good ideas. The main idea is fine. You and your friend go and try and become the champion, enter a sports-like league, and you crush all your best friend's dreams. That's an interesting spin on the normal gym challenge, and one that I enjoyed. To me, the whole Dynamax plot had so much potential, with the potential energy crisis, the darkest day, and the royal lineage hiding the real history behind it. But it felt like the writers had a good beginning and end, but accidentally flushed the middle. Sometimes characters do things with the only intention being to drive the plot forward, like when we decide to go storm Rose Tower for literally no reason. Or when Mr. Rose decides not to wait 1 day to solve a problem that will take place in 1,000 years. To give you a reference to how long 1,000 years is, 1,000 years ago we were in the literal Dark Ages. Which whenever I realized this, I thought it was a cute parallel to the Darkest Day, but actually in canon that was 3,000 years ago? A lot of the ideas introduced in the story are very interesting. Like the legendary Pokemon feel like actual ancient legends, and I think that's so cool. They haven't felt like that in a long time for me. But I think a lot of the execution wasn't the greatest. If the story's gonna take up my daily silent reading time, it better be good. The moments involving the legendaries were a little hit and a lot of not hitting. For example, I love how you have to fight the legendary at the beginning. That was a super cool event. It made me excited to eventually fight the thing for real and learn more about it, and then I regretted my decision. After your first encounter, Sonya occasionally comes to bother you about history! And it's usually an annoyingly long cutscene to explain barely any new information. Like, first you learn there's a king, and then you learn there were 2 kings, and then you learn they were actually just Doge comics. The game consisted of Do Gym Challenge, Sonya tells you about lore, and it just sort of repeats. Then they show up like 1,000 years later, but how is Hop supposed to know that the sword and shield would do anything? You're ruining my immersion in the story, Hop! Along the way, you learn about the Darkest Day, which you never really know what it is, but it's either caused by Eternatus, or it is Eternatus, and I don't know which one because I wasn't really paying much attention. I mean, I had no reason to pay much attention, because the Darkest Day, it's just history. There's no threat of it, it's over. That's like waking up afraid of being caught in the Spanish-American War. There hasn't even been a threat of it happening until it happens. Which, you know, up until we get to Winden, it's fine, you know, it's a tad bit boring, but it's whatever. I got catching Pokemon and the gym leaders to keep me invested. But then, because Leon is stuck at a meeting and late for our Din-Din, we go breaking and entering because we suspect he might be in trouble. He was not. But hey, when the 2 finalists of the Champion Cup went into your building, who's gonna stop them? You? This part is what made me realize that the story is kind of f***ing stupid. I was okay with it before, you know, I saw what they were going for, but this is malarkey if I've ever seen it. You go on this big scavenger hunt to hunt down the corrupt government with Marnie, and you constantly tell her how cool she is. Because you two have spent so much time together, you're basically a conjoined twin. You end up beating them because a crowd of screaming K-pop fans, and at the tower you fight Olina because she's a named character who's not a professor. Of course you'd fight her. I just feel like a bunch of the story is just checking off a list rather than making it feel coherent or natural. The story, and in fact the whole game, just seems to lack polish, like some of the visuals for the anti-tree fans and this glitch where you get on the ladder. This glitch also has a side effect that makes weebs have an irresistible urge to make an anime reference. This stuff didn't bother me much, but one thing did in fact make me laugh out loud and greatly lower my opinion on the game in the same 3-second span. At the very end of the game, you've beaten the champion. You're sitting there listening to the end credits song, watching this band of Pokemon go ham, and I thought I just saw something move across the screen. Let me just rewind real quick. Oh my god! I'm just kidding, it's just a fucking mouse cursor in this $60 main series Pokemon game. Pokemon just paying homage to its PC audience, that's all. This isn't even the only one. There's another one in the opening cutscene. Lets you know what this game's gonna be like just from the get-go. I'm sure many people didn't notice this. Once the credits rolled, 80% of the player base just spent their time looking at fan art of the characters. But still, this is just unacceptable. This just seems so easy of a mistake not to make, or at the very least, edit out. Overall, I think the game it's okay. Which normally would be okay, but this is Pokemon. The most profitable media franchise ever. It can definitely afford to spend a bit more money to increase the quality. But with sales like this, why bother? If they can half-ass a game and it sell like crazy, of course they're gonna cut corners. But is this game awful? No. Not at all. In fact, I think it's solid. It was over fairly quick, it was charming, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were some fun new mechanics, and fun characters, and intense fights. But I still think it's the weakest Pokemon game, despite it being the most recent and the most expensive. But the real question is, how have I made a 40-minute video about the new Pokemon game and not been caught in some sort of crossfire? Could it be? Could it be that there's no real fighting? That everyone just accepts this game for what it is, or just doesn't care anymore? I need to see this for myself. So while making this video, Pokemon announced DLC for the games, which as of the time of the recording of this has not come out, but I feel that this is a very important talking point of the quality of these games, so I'm going to just talk about what I found interesting in the trailers. Firstly, some minor things are added, like new bike designs, which are worth $30 on its own. There's also new clothes and hairstyles, and with these you can even look like Best Girl and Worst Guy. They added Gigantamax forms for Blastoise and Venusaur, so now all that's left is for a second Charizard form. The starters from Galar also got Gigantamax forms. Rillaboom and Cinderaces are pretty neat. Is that a fucking gun? Inteleon has a gun. It is on top of a sniper tower. Wasn't what I was expecting, but it's pretty.
Get down, Mr. Rose!
The two main things people were really excited about in the DLC are more areas to explore, and that many of the old Pokemon are returning. Some with new forms, which is pretty rad. Some of the major complaints were the lack of old Pokemon and how there wasn't a lot of stuff to do in the post-game. Also how Galar itself felt a bit small. But now, hopefully the DLC's new areas will change that, especially considering the Crown Tundra's theme is exploration, and the maps we got look a lot like the wild area with just the glimpses we have. I'm honestly really looking forward to it. The areas look really fun to explore and the new Pokemon look really cool. And though Kubfu doesn't look very interesting to me, I like whenever they said he was the key to the story, because I'm pretty sure it was a pun on key. Even though I absolutely despise when Pokemon forces you on what Pokemon to use, because the whole point of the series is that you get to pick from hundreds of monsters to make your own personalized team. This DLC is $30. I did like Calyrex, but it's known for its graceful movements. Yeah. There's new trainers, this psychic guy looks cool, and this guy's name is Mustard. Though we don't have a lot of information on the new expansion passes, I am excited to explore these new areas. I'm also glad that they, at the very least, aren't blocking the new Pokemon behind a paywall. Though it does kind of seem like Game Freak was holding back content so they could sell it back to us in the already most expensive main series Pokemon game of all time, and considering not all the Pokemon are back, they will probably do it again. Unless they make the final batch of Pokemon available in the Gen 4 remakes, if they ever get made. I enjoyed the game quite a bit, even though I think most of the fun revolves around completing the Pokédex, which not everyone does. I'm not gonna lie, this game was kind of a big disappointment. For what everyone wanted this game to be, the first new Pokemon game on this big, powerful console, it just lets down. It feels like a $40 3DS game, maybe even less than that, but it's a $60 main series Pokemon game. But even then, with the DLC, it might end up feeling like a $60 game, but then it'll actually be a $90 game, and I have enough for a candy bar.